We go forever and ever, yeah. You know that I'm much upset, yeah. You wish that you can do better, no, no, won't let her, We go forever and ever, yeah. I go and create the pressure, yeah. You wish that you can do better, You wish that you can do better, yeah, yeah. Ooh. We go forever and ever. We go forever and ever.
Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I'll be your Master Coach today. And today we're going to be talking about the work of an integrated Master Coach and how they can help you in your life. But before we get into that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and to share this video and or audio to help build an audience of like-minded individuals. So as you may see, that I'm in almost like a turtleneck or something if you can see the video. And it's so funny because I actually wore this for like a Halloween contest or something like that. It was like a venue, but it was like Christmas where you had to like dress up as like someone who's like famous, like a CEO, you could be a movie star or whatever. Well, I decided to be a Black Steve Jobs. And so I wore this and I look actually pretty close to him, right? I mean, like you could probably even say we were going to be like brothers or something like that. Like that is how good I was. I had the jeans and everything. I didn't have the lanyard, which if I had it, I think it would have sealed the deal. But regardless of my outfit today we're going to be diving into something very important. And that's going to be just understanding our future, right? The path that we're on right now. And I think sometimes people, they think they're on the right path. They are on a path, right? Or maybe they don't even know that they're on a path. And then they get to a point where maybe they're at a crossroad or a dead end. What do we do, right? What do we do when we get to a dead end? What do we do when we don't know? What do we do when we went the wrong way? Well, we need to understand a couple of things, right? Who we are, what do we want, and how will we get there? Sometimes people think, well, what do I want? And they just focus on that, right? I want this, I want this. If I can get this, then I'll be happy. If I can get this, then I'll find joy. If I can get this, then there'll be no more problems in my life. The issue with what you want is that just because you want it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to bring you what you were looking for. And I find that many people who are looking for something and they want it and they're hungry for it, by the time they get it, they're like, okay, I achieved it. Yeah, this moment feels good. But just because it feels good, it doesn't mean that this moment was like, oh my God, like now my life is over. Like I can, now I can die because I completed what I wanted, right? The journey of life is not about getting to our destinations. It's about experiencing the journey. Because let's say right now our life is going to be maybe 70 years long, okay? So that means when we're born all the way to 70, that's a journey, right? We're not going to say, well, I'm born, I can't wait till I get to 70 because life's over, right? So that means life has to happen in between from when we are born to when we're no longer alive. How can we start to understand what we're supposed to be doing while we're born? And it's important that you ask yourself the right questions. What questions do I need to ask myself in order to start to live my life more fully and just get the things that I truly want rather than the things that I think I want or that the world thinks I should have? Because the world will be quick to tell you what you need rather than you looking in the inside and saying, this is what I would like. For example, success. Success for you might be different than what success is for me. Success for me might be living in a cabin with a dog. And then success for you might be living in a 20-bedroom mansion with a yacht in the back, all right? It depends on what you want. Which success is right? There's no right success. There's only your success. But in order to get there, we have to do something. We have to find out what we want. What's that voice inside you telling you? What is that voice saying, hey, you can do this? Because there's going to be a lot of voices telling you that you can't do it. And there's going to be a small voice inside you saying that you can. Which voice do you allow to reign supreme? And today I'm going to be bringing on a guest, Dr. Klau, who's going to be helping us understand how to uncover that voice inside of our head and how to take more action in our day. So let's get into that interview with Dr. Klau and myself. Welcome, Dr. Klau, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on, and I'm glad that we can make this work because I know we have busy schedules. But today I have you on as an integral master coach. It might be confusing to some people, like integral master coach. Well, what is that? Well, they might know what a master coach is, but the work that you do is just so much more than a simple job title can ever tell. In your own words, can you tell what you do and how you help people?
Sure. So I'm sure people know there's a whole lot of different tools of coaching, different ways of getting certified as a coach. I went with Integral Coaching through an organization called Integral Coaching Canada. And it grew out of work by kind of a seminal thinker of our era named Ken Wilber, who designed integral theory, which really pulled together kind of the best thinking about human development from the East and the West and integrated it into one integral approach. And what I love about it is it really weaves together a lot of really rigorous theory around human development with a really creative, intuitive, relational piece of work around connecting with people at their innermost way of being and guiding them through a process to shift that way of being to show up in a way that is more aligned with who they want to be. And so it's pretty deep work, but also really engaging and creative. And I just found that this was the path that works best for me.
You said that there was a difference between, I guess, the human development or culture, the way of thinking in the East and the West. Can you dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you can look at adult development theory from Robert Keegan. You can look at Eric Erikson and Piaget. I mean, there's a whole world of Western human development theory. And you can also look at Eastern theories that come from Buddhism or Taoism, kind of spiritual development and ways of thinking about the world. And what Wilbur did was just weave it together and give us a framework for understanding how do we think about kind of the personal development, the systemic development, what's happening within the self, what's happening as part of our interpersonal relationships. And he just kind of organized it all in a way that just gets very useful and usable.
And how would someone know that they need an integral master coach?
Well, I always say it's people who just feel like there's a quiet voice in their soul saying, I just need something more. This is not quite it. And a lot of folks that I work with, mid-career folks who have been successful in a lot of ways, but just feel like they are not living as deeply connected to their purpose as they would like, or the impact they're having on the world is not really aligned with what their soul feels called to. And they don't really know how to get there. It's not like I need to be better at managing meetings or organizing my time better. There's some deeper piece of work. And those are the folks where this is a really powerful approach for them.
Even though not many people are going to act on that feeling of, oh, there's something more for me. There's so many people who have that idea in their head, like life can't be this, right? There has to be some greater meaning. But so many people are just, I guess you can say, inundated by the system where they just kind of follow suit, right? They go get their 9 to 5 and that's what they do for the rest of their life. They retire at 65
Yeah.
and then they fall victim or they fall into that trap of that rat race type of lifestyle. Though they want more, it's difficult for them to get more because of their, I guess you can say, their hardwiring as a younger person, maybe teens, and then maybe even college, right? They're told to do something in a certain way, and then this is what's going to be success or this is what's going to be happiness, only to find out that later in life, they don't have that fulfillment. They don't have that joy. They hear that voice within them that something is missing, but they don't act on it. What would you say to someone who might be hearing that voice, but is afraid to act on it because of the fear of failure?
Turning towards that fear is always the beginning of transformation. I do a lot with mythology and the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. And it always begins with being in some familiar, comfortable, ordinary place and then stepping across a threshold into something you don't understand. It is a scary step to say, I'm going to step out of this familiar world into something that I don't totally get, and that is always how the journey begins, is just moving into something that is uncomfortable and unknown as a first step. And, a lot of shifting a way of being is we have this whole way of being that frames the way we understand and we show up in the world. And to get to a different place, we need to get some perspective on our current way of being. Instead of just being in the world that way, we start to see ourselves being in the world that way. It's called the subject-object shift, where we start to get some perspective on our way of being instead of just enacting it. And all of a sudden we realize we have some more room to maneuver. We have a new degree of choice rather than just responding from a way that we don't fully understand to suddenly saying, whoa, now I see that that's just an assumption. And that's just a particular choice that I didn't realize I was making. And now because I see it, I can choose something different. But it always begins with what I'm doing right now is really familiar and comfortable. And to consider shifting that is scary. But that's how human transformation happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The fear aspect stops a lot of people from going places in their life, right? They love to stay in their comfort zone and it's not their fault, right? The brain just loves comfort, right? It's the homeostasis. It's like, okay, wherever I can be most comfortable, where I don't have to do too much and I don't have too little, I just find that nice, comfortable spot. And we all have that spot where we feel comfortable, right? That's why people like their house, right? I'm going home. If you're on vacation, right? It could be a beautiful place. You're like, oh, this is so great. But with vacation and travel comes a little bit of stress here and there. Not saying that even if you had an abundance of money, it's still like, oh, I have to make sure I don't miss my plane. I have to check this and I have to get a taxi. So there's some stress associated with that. But when you get home, all that is alleviated. So, yes, you got a tan, you might have got some good eats, but now it's like, okay, you're home again. Now you have less stress, but you still have the world stress because you didn't leave that stress. You might have escaped it momentarily when you went on vacation. You're just coming back to what you had. So it's like, oh, this is regular for me. So you had a reprieve and then you have more energy. Do you find that people have less energy today than they did maybe 50 years ago because of diet, ways of thinking, or culture?
That'd be a hard one for me to answer. I'm not totally sure of energy levels
It's
50 years
opinion.
ago. I
Opinion.
do. I without a doubt, it is a more complex world to live in right now. And I
Mm.
think we have a much harder time focusing and we're more scattered and pulled in more directions. And I think in general, overwhelmed in a way that is different from 50 years ago.
And the reason why I say that is because if we look back 50 years, like 60s around there, 70s, they were doing so much more, right? They were doing this and that, and they had to walk places, right? Yeah, some people did have vehicles and things like that, but it was a more simple life, I guess you can say. Now it's so quick today, right? If we need a ride, we just go on our phone, we get a Uber or a Lyft, we can get things delivered to us. So Amazon, online shopping, we don't have to go out. So we lost some of our mobility because now things can be brought to the comfort of our home. That's why I said our home is like our place that we enjoy. But then while they're home, right, we are distracted by the cell phones and the laptops and everything that's keeping us distracted. It's hard to hear that voice. It's hard to hear that voice because all of our needs are being met. And if our needs are being met, then it was like, why do we even need to hear that voice? It's not until our needs are not met do we start to hear that voice louder. So I typically work with people who have had a trauma in their life, some type of grief, hardship, problems. They don't come to me when everything is going good. They don't say, Mike, everything is going good. I'm here because I heard a voice in my head and it said I can be more. And I want to make sure I can listen to that voice because it sounds like, it's going on the right path. They wait until they hit rock bottom or they hit a bumpy road and they say, there has to be something else. It has to be more than this. Why do you think people wait to that bumpy road rather than just looking on the inside and saying, okay, what can I change today? What type of voice is in my mind right now that's telling me to push in certain areas and to act on that?
Great question. I mean, you were talking before about how people appreciate comfort and tend to stay in places that are comfortable. And I do think for a lot of people, it takes a crisis or a real difficult experience to move them to try and change things. There's no doubt that for a lot of people, that's how it works. And so something happens, and then suddenly they realize I need a coach, I need to work with somebody, I need to connect with somebody to get me past this or through this. I do also know there's a lot of people who are pretty committed to personal growth. And I feel like along with all the ways the world is going to so many dark places, there are a lot of people really awakening to just a commitment to ongoing growth. And so some folks are in the world that way. But I also think there are plenty of people who kind of need to be knocked on the head a little bit before they start looking for opportunities to grow.
Personal development has been on the rise. More people have been seeking help. There's been more professionals going into the field just because it's a growing need. And it's not so much that the world is like falling apart where everyone is like, oh man, I need to get a coach to help me out. It's so much that you can only go so long without something before things start to break. For example, a car without oil, you can go so long before the engine breaks down. In our education system, for example, right, we are told to give them a set of knowledge that they have to just regurgitate to us on a piece of paper, and then they go on to the next grade. But they're maybe missing critical skills, critical thinking, economics, lifestyle, right? Learning all of that is not just simple math, reading, writing, geography, sciences. Yes, that has a place, but while they're going through that process, they're losing their imagination, they're losing their voice. By the time they're 18, it's kind of like, well, what do I do? Well, I guess I have to get a job. And they might fall into a career that they don't love. I can't tell you how many college bound students don't know what they want to do. So they pick any career. 2, 3 years later, they're like, I don't love this career. So they switch maybe. Or they just say, well, I'm too far in. I'm just going to suck it up and do it. So then now they're stuck in a sense because they feel like they have to do it because they already committed to it. Maybe they don't have money, so they just can't simply keep on changing. And some people are fortunate where they can change or have all these degrees and majors. But for me, as an example, I started doing accounting finance. And after that, like I did it 2 years and I was like going into work because I had an internship doing business finance my first year, loved it. And then going accounting, I hated it. And I was just like, I just can't be in a cubicle for the rest of my life. And I had that voice inside of my head saying, you want to teach, you want to be a teacher. The goal or the thing I was thinking about when I was 18 was I'm going to go do business, make some more money because teaching didn't make more money than business. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make some money, pay for my teaching degree. But after that second year of just business, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I
Soul
have to go
dies.
yes, exactly. So I said,
Yeah.
I have to go into teaching first. So I went into teaching, loved it. And then I was like, this is where I want to be. But while I was in teaching, I saw so many of the holes of education. We were not preparing the students for real life. And our hands are tied with the curriculum and standards that we have to teach them. And I think that they should be there, but then I do think that there should be something else, whether it be supplemental information that we give them that we can give to the parents and we can say, hey, this is the age that you might want to start thinking about this. None of that happens. It's almost like if the parents are not in the mix and they just say, well, the kid went to school and the kid learned, that kid is going to be so unprepared or more unprepared than other people who might have had parents who were in that kid's life saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. And then by the time they graduate college, they're going on a career. And then that's when they need a master coach, mindset coach, a life coach, someone to help them saying, hey, we can make some adjustments. It's not too late. Why do you think we are in a system that is not preparing adults or young adults for the adult world?
I love that. I resonate a lot with the story you talked about because it was my story. I was an academically successful person. I did very well in high school. I got to go to college on a scholarship and was so good at writing papers and kind of giving people the answers that they were asking me for. And then I hit a moment in my early 20s where I just realized I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I had a few years of just feeling, I say I was a lost idealist. I had a lot of a burning need to change the world for the better and really didn't know how to find my path or what my path was. And it really woke me up to how much of education is about helping people master knowledge and internalize information. And that can actually disconnect people from their own kind of voice and their own truth and their own sense of direction if it's not complemented with spaces for reflection and invitations to kind of process and make meaning of their experiences. And so I'm with you. And it's one of the reasons I love coaching because, this work is not fundamentally about giving people new knowledge to be better. It's about inviting them to know themselves better and to work on themselves at a deeper level so that they are more connected and aligned with their truest selves.
When a person begins that process to dive into their inner voice to look for it's basically what I'm trying to say. What is the process of that? Is it like meditation? Is it self-reflection, journaling? Like, what is your process to help someone find that inner voice if they're having a hard time finding it or listening to it?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to all of the above. I'm a big fan of meditation. I have a practice, but I also think just mindfulness, just quieting the mind on its own, is not the full work of getting to know oneself. Because so a lot of my work is inviting people to do reflection around exercises like what's your core values, what's your mission, what's your shadow. And what I find is it's hard work. Even people who think they're clear on that, when they start to try and write it down and really articulate it, realize, oh, I'm actually, this is going to take some work for me to get really clear about this inner stuff. So I think about it a lot as holding a space for people, giving them some exercises that are really about connecting with that inner clarity. and just supporting them in doing what I like to think of as inner archaeology, just kind of wiping away the layers until you get to this is really the essence of who I am.
Yeah, no, the essence of who you are is very important, because if you just pretend to be someone, or if you just do something that is not in synergy or in sync with you, you're going to feel it, and you're just going to be out of whack every day. You're just going to be like a rough day, right? I think when that happens, a lot of people fall into bad habits, whether it be substance abuse or just the type of things that they do in their day that are not beneficial for them, right? For example, you don't have to drink alcohol or a beer every night for you to ruin your life. You can maybe go home and just sit on the sofa and watch TV. What else can we do, right? So just asking that type of question. And I wanted to ask you, well, what is the difference between values and beliefs? Because we can have a set of values and then we can have a set of beliefs. Is there one that is more superior, or ones that we should be looking at more, or is it going to be unique to each person?
Well, they're definitely different things. And, I suppose they're both important in their own ways. I mean, values are our deepest beliefs and our highest aspirations for how we want to be, like empathy is a value, compassion or courage. This is a way of being that I have learned from others, and that is core to how I want to show up in the world. And then you get to the question of integrity, which is, do I actually live in alignment with these things? And you can only really have a meaningful, kind of discussion of integrity if you've done the work to get clear on that. If this is what I believe, this is what I hold most core to myself. And now I can actually assess, am I living with integrity to that or not? I mean, beliefs can be important. A belief can be, I think I can make this big goal happen, or I think I can't make that big goal happen, or these people won't listen to me, or those are things that I think they can be tested, and you can experiment to test the validity of your beliefs. But I think if you are going to go around and experiment with your beliefs without having done that work of what are my values, that's really just the North Star that allows you to be aware of whether you're living with, alignment with yourself or not. So for me, I start with values. And then a lot of the coaching, I think, is like, okay, what you just said, that's a belief. Let's test that. Or like, are you sure that that's actually true in the world? And can we run a little experiment where you can actually test that and see if it's actually true, or maybe there's some different thing going on? So a lot of the coaching is guiding people through that experimentation work. But it's just so powerful to be clear about this is my core. And then I can assess what it means to live with alignment with that.
Here in the West, I think, or I've found, many people let beliefs take the wheel, where they believe something. They're like, I believe this to be true. And that's where they find themselves in a lot of sticky situations. For example, relationships, right? They have a belief of how a relationship should be, whether because they saw a TV program and they said, well, this is what I believe a relationship to be. When if you look at a relationship, it's more so the value system, right? What type of values you want in a person you want into your relationship? Because if you skip that, then you're going to maybe find a relationship that you're not in sync with. And you're like, okay, I don't like this relationship. Let me get rid of it, right? So people are so quick to get rid of something. So the value of marriage, for example, till death do us part, does not matter anymore, because they have a belief in what marriage is. And that person should make me happy. I believe that this person should make me happy. That's my belief. It's not my value, right? The value is going to be till death do us part, right? Commitment. And so we have the ideas of values and beliefs kind of mixed up, where beliefs are leading, values are kind of just following behind. When I work with people and I switch that, it's like everything changes, right? They can start to be in more healthy relationships. They get into a better mindset. Why are values so powerful where beliefs might not be as powerful? Because if we think about beliefs, also a belief can be a religion, and that can be powerful. So are there certain aspects of belief that are more powerful than values, or do you believe that there's some parts of values that are just so much more powerful?
That's an interesting question. I've not heard it phrased that way. I mean, I guess I'm working with a metaphor. Values are kind of like the ground you build the house on. And is it solid? Are you clear? Is this where you want to, is this a solid foundation? And then you can build a house that looks all kinds of different things. But if it's in the wrong place or built on sand, the whole house can fall apart. So I don't know. I feel like values are foundational in a way that beliefs aren't. But one thing I think is relevant to share is to reveal a little bit of the methodology of integral coaching. Is we give clients a metaphor for a current way of being and a metaphor for a new way of being, which represents kind of a very different way of being in the world. And the power of the metaphor is it illuminates just a whole constellation of kind of default behaviors and beliefs that kind of dictate a person's responses to the world in ways they don't always understand. So, maybe like a metaphor for a current way of being is, a polite beaver, which means somebody who's like always busy and is just constantly kind, like polite to people. And, it's a whole way of being in the world. And with that metaphor, people can say, wait, what if I wasn't so busy? Like, why do I need to be busy all the time? And this person actually is not being nice to me. What if I wasn't polite in situations where somebody needs to actually be held accountable for things? Example of a new way might be the grounded lion or something, which is somebody who's like deeply grounded in their values and knows exactly who they are and lives with integrity to themselves and walks through the world with that kind of power and strength as a lion. And if you can imagine the transformation that happens to move from, say, a polite beaver to a grounded lion, you can get a sense of kind of the depth of transformation that happens. And I shared just because, to be a beaver is to have a whole set of ideas around how the world works, a whole set of beliefs that once you start getting some perspective on the beaver, you can start questioning those things and trying new things and moving towards a very different way that shows up with a whole different set of beliefs.
There's a quote that I say often is, don't mistake movement for progress, because people think they're doing a lot. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. I'm so busy, I don't have any time. That is an excuse in my book. I'm not sure where it lies in your book, but for me, it's an excuse, right? We all have time. It's just that where do we put the value in our time, right? What are we going to make a priority? So is watching TV a priority? Is going out with your friends a priority? Or is being with your family a priority, right? There's different levels that we have to look at too, right? Which ones are going to bring us the most joy? Because I find if you spend more time with the things that are going to bring you the most joy and fulfillment and not take away or detract from you, for example, hanging out with your friends might be a lot of fun, but you're going out and drinking, you're doing this, and the next day you feel like total dog poop. That might not be a good idea long term, right? Not saying that you can't ever do it, but understand that you do it once every couple of months or something like that, right? Because you have a bigger vision, right? What is your vision? And that's the next process, right? The vision of our future. Because I think people kind of just go through every single day. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. But if they give themselves a vision and not so much a movement of, I think I'm doing the right thing, or I'm doing all this stuff, I should, or it should equate to what I want or what I'm aiming at, only to find when they hit 65, they didn't even get maybe a fraction of it done because they weren't looking at it in the sense of, I'm going for this. We have so many different distractions today. It's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. But when you focus on just maybe 3 of them a day, you get so much more done in the long run versus everyone that tries to multitask, right? That's a big one, right? Oh, I got to text and I got to drive because the text can't wait, right? Or I have to watch the news and I have to watch the series and I have to talk to my friend because I have to do all 3 at once, right? Instead of learning how to focus. And I think if someone can learn how to focus, not only will they hear that voice inside of them a lot easier, but they can be more concise in how they operate toward their future. What are some of your methods for helping people stay true and not get distracted by all the day-to-day hoopla of social media, of our technology, cell phones, laptops? How do you help your clients stay focused to their goals and their futures and their visions and their values?
I mean, a few things. Part of it is just straight up inviting them to craft their core values and their mission, like actually reflect directly on that stuff so they can operate with a different level of clarity in that. Another part of integral coaching is giving people grounding practices that are designed to help them ground in the new way of being that they're trying to move for. And if that, that might be a walking meditation, or it might be singing out loud in the shower if they aspire to be, a little bit more outgoing or use their voice more powerfully, but give them some practice that actually connects them to the energy of that new way of being so that they can really begin to ground themselves. And then there's this work of working with our way of being and the metaphors. Because, I have a story, you were talking about people who are so busy. And one story that amazed me, I had a client, I showed up for a very first meeting. It was like an intake meeting. We had just agreed to connect. And she had 2 full pages of a notebook filled out with all the things she thought I was going to have her do. And, not surprisingly, part of what she was looking for coaching for was she was exhausted and felt like she was taking care of everybody in her life, and to help her get a little distance of like, I never would have asked for that. That was like, where did this belief that you have to do all that extra work, and just digging into that and beginning to let go of it and be able to show up with a different way of being that did not involve that kind of like, I'm going to take care of literally everybody, every detail before it's asked, because I think that's what I'm supposed to do in the world. Opened up a whole bunch of space to know herself better, to listen to her voice, to spend her life living with integrity to herself rather than responding to these unexpressed needs that she assumed everybody else was expecting her to deal with. So anyway, it's that work around getting some clarity and shifting our way of being can often have some really deep shifts in how busy we are, and what we think is ours to do.
While you're telling me that story, I thought about moments when I was a teacher and students would come in and they will say, "Are we doing this today?" And I say, "Maybe," just kind of something like that. Or they say, "Can we do this?" And I'll say, "I'll think about it." And they're like, "Yes. All right, cool." Right. The assumptions of them, right? I typically don't do it. So it's like I do something different. And then they're having a good time and they're learning still. But then maybe at the end of the class, I hit them with it here and there. And I can tell you the looks on their faces, or like I can see into their brain almost. It's like you could just see the spark. It's just like, whoa, right? It's like magic. It's like they know what they wanted. And even though you give them other things and they're like, I like this, this is good stuff. But then you give them that one thing that they want. They're like, yes, I was waiting for that. And in our life, we have that one thing that is just going to be that spark for us. It's like, this is life right here. And sometimes we just give ourselves other things that make us feel good. I'm not saying that those things that we want are going to be like the best thing, because sometimes we are just operating on one path thinking this is what we need, this is what we need, this is what we need. Like if we think about superficial things like, oh, I need this car, I need this and that. And then before you know it, it's in a box somewhere and you don't even need it anymore, right? So there's different aspects to that. And I love what you said about connecting the energy to our meeting. Because if we can connect what we do with our energy to what we want or what we are aspiring to have in our life, then that's right there. It's going to give us that spark, I think, more readily than if we were just saying, well, I think I want this because someone else has this, right? We have a world where we look at comparison, keeping up with the Joneses. And if we can have what our neighbor has, go, oh, they got a new car, I guess I have to get a new car. Oh, we got to get a new iPhone because there's a new iPhone out. If I had the old iPhone, everyone's going to laugh at me, or they're going to say, oh, you got that iPhone 13 and they're on an iPhone 17 or whatever they're on. And that right there is going to make a lot of people operate under different bounds of things that don't matter, right? That's not connecting them to the energy, right? It's connecting them to their relationships, maybe to society, to peer pressure, but not to what they want to become, because they can use that money. They can invest that money into themselves, coaching. I mean, like we can go down that list of what they can do instead of getting something that makes them in the crowd, because sometimes you don't have to be in the crowd to really be in your life. Or, like people are just so quick to be accepted. Like I'm seeking acceptance rather than I'm seeking fulfillment or joy or meaning in my life. So connecting that energy to meaning, I think is so powerful, because then they can say, all right, I'm going to use my energy this way rather than that way, or cultivate these type of relationships that might not bring me what I'm looking for. So yes, I'm going to write down 2 pages of things that I think you might tell me. But if I came in with no expectations and open to listening, would I get more? Do you think that if someone came in with a 2-page list of expectations versus a no list expectation, do you find that they'll get more out of it? Or do you think that they will maybe just find like an understanding of maybe I'm doing too much if I write this 2 pages?
Yeah, well, the ideal is somebody who is present in the moment. And here was somebody who, she had all these unexamined beliefs about what is expected of her and what it means to be a good client. And she put in all this work and her mind was all over the place. And then of course is like, did I do it right? Is the coach going to agree with this? Or as opposed to just, I'm just going to show up and be present and see what wants to unfold in this moment. And it's a very simple way of being, but can also require doing a lot of inner work to be able to just quiet the noise and just say, I'm just here right now. And let's see what the right thing to do is. And, other thing I feel moved to say that, it's a reason I love integral coaching is because part of the theory is around thinking about different levels of consciousness. And I mean, there's a whole kind of books about this, but there's a kind of orange level of consciousness that's about achievement, that the world is fundamentally about achievement, and it's about being effective and efficient and getting things done the right way. And according to these theorists, most of the business world lives at this orange level of consciousness. But pretty soon you start to realize there's real limitations to just being effective and efficient. And you start, there are a lot of people who get hurt if all you're focused on is effective and efficient and not who is being supported or helped or hurt by this work that we're doing. And so you just hit the limits of that. And what I find, and not only does it have problems in the world around us, but we burn ourselves out if we assume that our usefulness in the world is about our achievement and our efficiency, And so we start to realize, like, I don't want to live this way. And part of getting out of that is shifting to a level of consciousness that gets to a higher place where we're like, my value is not about my achievement in the world. My value, I am enough as a human being. But to get there, you suddenly found yourself kind of out of sync with a lot of people around you. Like, kind of as you were saying, there's a lot of people focused on this, and you find yourself how to be in the world when you are in the world in a different way from a lot of people around you. And that's its own challenge. Getting there is a piece of work, and then kind of sustaining it and finding out how to build a life around that is another piece of work.
I find people, they like to be helpful, right? Have a purpose. So they don't find their own purpose. They look for finding a purpose in someone else's life. All right. So for example, I'm going to go work for a company. Did I do a good job? Please tell me I did a good job. Yes, I did a good job. Great. Give me an award, give me a promotion, give me something to let me know I did a good job. Right. And I was reading a book, it was a long time ago now, where someone was like a CEO and he had like a secretary, and the secretary was doing great work. And so the secretary was just always doing the work, showing up every single day. And so he's saying, you're doing great work. I'm going to give you a raise, right? Boom, gets a raise, thinking she's going to love it, right? So she's still doing exactly what she's supposed to do, but she's not happy. So then he sees it, she's going, coming in to work, tired, work's starting not to get done now. And then he's like, well, maybe she needs more money, right? So he gives her more money. And then eventually she quits. CEO's thinking, like, I'm giving her all this money. She's doing a great job. The only thing she wanted was for him to say, you're doing a great job. I appreciate you, and being there with her. It wasn't, here's a promotion, here's some money, keep doing good work, right? It was looking at the person and saying, you are valuable to me, this company, and I don't want to lose you. We are so inundated with just a rush, especially businesses, where it's just like, all right, like we got to meet the quota, right? Boom, 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 boom. Where someone might not be influenced by money, right? They just maybe want like a handshake. Maybe they want to go out to eat and just talk about life. It's not all about that. And I think living in the present moment is so powerful. And I remember it's a movie and a book, The Peaceful Warrior.
Oh yeah. Dan Millman.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So it's talking about that aspect of living in the moment. Yes, you can be a high achiever, but living in the moment is that it brings so much more power into what you can do. Because yes, we can have a belief in what we want and we can be boom, boom, boom. But if we slow down, if we taste our food, if we look around, what's going on? Because there's never nothing going on, right? So getting into that way of thinking, right? Because we're living in such a fast-paced world. If we slow down, then we can start to hear that voice inside of us. Then we can start to see our true values. Then we can start to give our life a little bit better direction. We can connect our energy to where we want to be rather than where we currently are. Because I think sometimes we're just so hyper focused on one thing, like, all right, I'm going to be on my cell phone. Boom, I'm on TikTok 3 hours, right? Nothing wrong with being on TikTok 3 hours, but did that bring you fulfillment, right? You have to figure out that balance. And for me, I enjoy working. I enjoy doing stuff for the business. I enjoy podcasts and like talking to people. I find a lot of joy in that, but then I also find joy in my family. So I have to find that balance. But for me, I had to find out, well, how much work percent do I want to do versus family percent? And that's a personal decision. So I can't say that, all right, audience, you need 50% family, 10% work, 40% social. Like it doesn't work, because depending on your personality, who you are, you might need something different. Just how that secretary needed affirmation rather than a promotion or a pay raise, Some people are influenced by money. So maybe you are one of those people, but then there's some people who don't want that or don't need that. So just understanding what a person is and then slowing down and then saying, well, what does this person need? When you're working with people, are you easily able to tell what the person is lacking? Or do you just have to really get to know someone to say, I think this is where we can make some improvements or some adjustments?
So it's such a great question. And I want to hold the paradox of, I do feel like I've had a lot of training, I've had a lot of practice, and part of my value as a coach is being able to sense the work people need to do. But that is also held with a real humility. I don't always get it right. And any work we do together has to be co-created. And I often coach, it's kind of like, let me offer this interpretation or perspective and work with the client. Does that land for you? Does that feel right? Or is there a part of that that misses something? And so it's really a collaborative process of, let me show up with my instincts and my intuition and my sense of things and test it with you. And the client is always the true expert. I'm very used to them saying, that's interesting, but it misses this, or I would want to add on this. And in working together that way, we get to like the real work that is valuable for the client. And it involves both trusting my instincts and also being very clear about the limits of, what I can know without really working collaboratively with a client.
I like to say coaching is not someone sitting across from you, but sitting right next to you. Because if you're just across the table, then it's always like back and forth type of thing. But if we're on the same side, then it's like, all right, we're working together. Let's figure this out together. And I think having a coach is so powerful. It's why I became a coach, because there's going to be a hole in the education when you come up from high school, from college, from wherever. There's going to be a gap. And there's going to be a moment where you have to make some adjustments. It might not happen immediately after high school or college. It might happen in your 30s or 40s, where things start to crumble because you can only keep going so high on a shaky foundation, right? Our values, right? The foundation that we have built. If you don't have a strong foundation, then eventually everything is going to topple over. And even if you have a good, strong mindset, if you know how to be present, live in the moment, you have good values, having that support of someone there on your side of the table, not only helping you, but watching for your blind spots is going to be integral. Because if you can be a step ahead of maybe any future issues that can come up, you're going to find that you're going to mitigate a lot of the trial and error. And it's so important to have successes, but then to also look at our failures. It's just that you don't want to just keep doing the same failures over and over and over again, because you're just going to get burned out. It's like, okay, well, what's the point? I keep failing, right? This is pointless. And you're just going to find yourself in a rut or stuck in a way of thinking. You're like, well, this is my life. And you're going to keep going down that path. But if you have a coach to help guide you, to help listen to you, and to work collaboratively with you, then that's when the true magic can happen. And what we talked about today is just the beginning, right? For the journey for anyone who's trying to find a vision, trying to find their values, trying to create something, connect their energy to meaning. There's more to the process than just, okay, I'm going to write down my values. I'm going to write 2 pages, then I'm going to call Max, and Max going to sit on the side of the table with me, and then everything's going to work, right? It's going to be a process. You have to appreciate that process. You have to go through that process and understand that process. And I think Max is going to be a valuable asset in that process. So if you are a person who is stuck, if you have that voice inside of you saying that you can be more, it is true, you can be more. If you can't hear that voice yet, Max has a shovel. He can dig that voice out and he's going to make sure that you can get that voice in the limelight where it should be. So Max, if I can I get any final words from you? And then please tell the audience where they can find you.
I mean, I always say that the essence of my philosophy is the most powerful response to complexity in the world around us is the ability to get clear in the world within us. And so that's what my coaching is about, is really connecting with our deepest sources of purpose and mission, and so that we can move forward in all of this complexity with a whole lot more confidence and certainty and strength. So you can find me at www.maxclaritycoaching.com. And my name is Max Klau, Maxklau. And if you are interested, feel free to reach out. There's a pretty easy way to just set up a meeting with me. But I really appreciate the thoughtful conversation, and fun to talk coaching at this level. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, of course. And I will put all of your links in the description box below so people can easily find you, follow you, set up the consultation. And I always tell people to find someone who you're going to resonate with, because every coach is different. Every coach has a different personality, different
Absolutely.
energy. And I love the energy that Max gave us today. And just the knowledge and the wisdom he has is going to be important. It's going to be critical for anyone's further development in their future, their goals today and for tomorrow. So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Max Klau, for coming on Coaching in Session. Keep up the great work.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. I would like to thank you so much for watching that interview with Dr. Max Klau and myself. As you can see, he's going to be someone who's going to be there to help you get into that life you're looking for. We all have a vision. We all have an idea for how we want to live our life. And I think many people are living in a fantasy world. They're living in a hope-based world where they look at luck and probability and they put their favor in luck, right? I'm going to gamble. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to win a bunch of money. As much as I can say that, yes, your life is going to change when you win all that money, and it might not change for the better. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to be looking for you, saying, hey, you remember me? I gave you $2. It's now compound interest. You owe me $3,000. And they're living in a luck-based mentality, but that luck-based mentality is not going to bring joy in the end. So that means we need to focus on, well, what is going to bring us joy? And it's not so much that we need joy. Because people might say, well, maybe drinking alcohol brings joy, or hanging out with my friends brings joy, and if I get more money, I can do it more. A good thing eventually comes to end. I always give this example. If you have your favorite food every single day, will you get tired of it? And you might say no, right? You might be like Dave Portnoy, he has pizza every single day. But I'm sure at some point, he's like, I don't want just the same type of pizza, right? Going to Domino's, right? He goes to different pizza places, right? The reason why he goes to different pizza places, because number one, he has to do different scores. But then number two, there's different flavors, right? You can have maybe oregano, maybe different cheese, different type of oven. So pizza can lead you on a different type of journey. So you can have different types of chicken, for example. Not saying that eventually you won't get tired of chicken. So you can have chicken tikka masala, you can have chicken cordon bleu, you can have this grilled chicken, roast chicken, whatever, right? So there's a lot of different types of chicken that you can have, and in our life we have a lot of different paths that we can take. But we do have to understand, what path are we on? Are we on this path for a moment? Are we on this path for a long journey? Some people are on different paths for different sets of time, but then that's just when the road forks, right? So if you're in college, you're on the college path, and then eventually after college, it forks. What do? You might have got a degree that you don't like. What do? You have two paths. You go on that degree and be unhappy, or you say, I'm going to do something with this degree in a way that is going to still let me utilize what I attained and then live the life that I'm looking for. So when I decided to leave teaching or the education system, I said, well, what can I do, right? I still love teaching. And then I was thinking, like, I could teach at the college level, right? I could teach a master's education class, and I'm going to be the best professor to help these students be the best teacher for the students. But then I said, wait, I'm still not accomplishing my goal. What is my goal? Yes, I can be a teacher. I can have a salary, pension, but I wanted to create more impact in the world. I wasn't happy with just one district, with one set of people in my society or where I grew up. I wanted to get out of that environment. I wanted to get into a new environment. And something amazing happened when I left from one environment to the next environment. I changed. My whole mindset started to change. The people that you surround yourself with are going to help you change and adjust to who you want to be or who you're going to be at that moment. So if you're in a negative environment, you're going to maybe adjust to that negative. But I will tell you, it might be difficult to tell that if someone's negative or someone's positive or someone has it good for you, right? Just because they have that family mark or that last name, it doesn't mean they are family. Not everyone who wants you to win wants you to win. Or the people that you think should want you to win want you to win. And it can hurt when you know that someone that you love or cherish doesn't want you to win or succeed, because then it makes them feel like they're insignificant, they're inferior. It's a fear that many people have. I don't want you to shine, because then it's going to dim my light. Because the brightest light is going to win, right? We're going to see that light. And if you're right next to that person, we're not going to see that dim light. We're going to see only that bright light. So a person can keep you dull and keep you dim. They would, the majority of people, unless they had that love for you that is like, either you win or you don't win, I'm here. And there's this saying that became popular a year ago. I'm going to keep on clapping until it's my turn. And I was Doc. And I understand what you're saying. You're going to support them, right? I want to see you win. Keep on winning, right? I want to see you win. Keep on winning. But at what point do you look in the mirror and you say it's time to win? Because if you're too busy clapping at someone else saying, okay, I want you to win. This is a hard concept for people to understand because they think when I'm clapping, my turn is next. Like I'm proceeding after this person, but there has to be action. There has to be action there, not just clapping. Action toward that attainment so that people can clap for you. People just think, well, it's going to happen eventually. Oh yeah, it's going to happen eventually. Let me keep on clapping. But nothing happens. I'm going to keep on clapping until it's my turn. It's a way for us or the subconscious mind to feel better. It could happen. But just because it could doesn't mean it will. So how can we make things happen in our life? Well, we have to figure out what's on the inside. What do we want? What are our desires? Do we want to shine? Because some people don't want to shine. Remember, success is different for everyone. So you get to decide what you want in your life. Do you want something more? Do you want something less? Do you want to just support people? Or do you want to be supported? So regardless of what you choose, you're going to need someone on your side. You're going to need a team player, someone who's going to know the way, who's going to see your blind spots, who's going to be there on your side of the table. And that's why a coach is so important. It doesn't matter if you get a mindset coach, a life coach, an integrated master coach. It doesn't matter what type of coach you get. Now, of course, you have to be selective in certain areas. For example, if you want a relationship coach, you probably are not going to go talk to a therapist talking about, oh, I'm not able to find loves and things like that. And then guess what they're going to do? They're going to say, well, tell me about your experience with your parents. Tell me about the relationships that you had growing up. None of it is about getting a relationship. You're just talking about your past relationships. How can we get to the goals that we want? We need to have action. We need to have direction. And that's why a coach is going to be there by your side to help you get to the things that you want. So if you have an aspiration, if you have a desire for more in your life, don't let that chance slip by. Let today be the opportunity for you to take some initiative, take some action to begin to change your life. And it doesn't have to be night and day shift. The process can be slow. The process can be fast. Just because the process is fast, it doesn't mean it's better than slow. Again, success. How do you get there? Some people get success at 21. Some people wait till they're 65. It doesn't necessarily matter when you reach it, as long as you reach it. So understand what pace you need to go. If you need to go fast, go fast. If you need to go slow, go slow. But if you get a coach who knows how to coach, if you get a coach who knows how to see you for who you are, to work collectively and collaboratively, then you're going to see how far you can go in your life. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.